No two minds ever come together without thereby creating a third, invisible, intangible force, which may be likened to a third mind.
Mr. Hill, it's a pleasure to have you back. I have 1,000 questions I could ask, but today I wanted to focus on one of your principles in particular, one that I feel, perhaps more than any other, gets misunderstood, or at the very least, its application in the modern world has become a challenge.
I'm delighted to be here, Dr. Sinclair. And you're right. A principle is like a powerful tool. Its true function is often missed by those who only glance at the surface. Which one is on your mind?
The mastermind. When people hear that term, I think the immediate, almost universal takeaway is, well, that you need to surround yourself with successful people, to network. Is that a fair assessment of the popular view?
It is. It's the most common interpretation. And while it isn't wrong, it is merely the tip of the iceberg, floating above a vast hidden power. The common advice is to curate your circle, find a mentor, associate with winners.
Exactly. And that's the message echoed in almost every business book today. Your network is your net worth. It's become something of a mantra. But this is precisely where the principle becomes difficult for me, and for many in my generation. You see, you speak from an era of handshakes, lunch meetings, and physical presence. I exist in an era of the solopreneur, of remote work, of individuals building their enterprises alone, behind a screen, often thousands of miles apart from their peers.
An important distinction. Please go on.
Well, how? How do we apply this practically? The successful people you speak of, their time is their most guarded asset. How does one approach them? How does one ask to be part of their mastermind without sounding like, well, a nuisance? Without just being another email in an overflowing inbox asking for something? It feels transactional and, frankly, a bit cheap. And my deeper question is this. Let's say you manage it. Let's say you get 4 brilliant people to agree to a weekly video call. Does that Zoom call, does it truly have the same alchemy, the same power to create that invisible third mind you just described? Or is it just another optimized business meeting? I can't shake the feeling that a key ingredient has been lost in the modern translation.
Dr. Sinclair, with that question, you've moved past the architecture of the principle and gone straight to its soul. You're right to feel that something is missing. The missing ingredient is chemistry, not technique.
Chemistry. I like that. It implies this is more like gardening than engineering. You can't force a plant to grow. You can only create the perfect conditions for it.
Precisely. You cultivate it.
So let me ask you this. In your years of research, sitting with hundreds of the most successful people alive, was there one quintessential example, one group you observed where this third mind was almost a palpable presence in the room? Not just a business partnership, but something almost legendary.
Legendary. Yes. There is one example that always shines brighter in my memory than the rest, because its members didn't just shape their own worlds, they shaped ours.
I'm listening.
We picture 3 men at the zenith of their power. One, the undisputed genius of invention, the man who captured light in a glass bulb, Thomas Edison. The second, a revolutionary of industry, the man who put America on wheels and redefined mass production, Henry Ford. And the third, the man who showed those wheels for the journey, the titan of the rubber industry, Harvey Firestone.
3 titans, 3 distinct empires.
Exactly. Now imagine these men, with all their immense responsibilities and demands on their time, did one thing every year. They would leave their boardrooms, their laboratories, and their sprawling factories behind and venture out into the wilderness to go camping.
Camping? Henry Ford and Thomas Edison sitting around a campfire? That is not the image history books typically project.
Because history records the results, not the process. And this was not a mere vacation. It was a ritual, a sacred, planned event. Imagine the silence of the forest broken only by the crackle of the fire, the smell of wood smoke. There were no telephones ringing, no secretary scheduling appointments. In that space, they stepped out of their roles as Mr. Ford and Mr. Edison and became simply Tom and Henry.
And in that space, in that silence, what happened?
The alchemy. That is where their minds truly merged. Firestone would speak of his desperate struggle to find a sustainable source for rubber. Ford would wrestle aloud with a bottleneck on the Model T production line. Edison would float ideas that would have sounded like pure madness to anyone else. They were not simply reporting to one another. They were thinking aloud together. They were pouring their greatest professional challenges into the shared vessel of their collective minds, allowing them to mix and transform. They laid their vulnerabilities bare in a sanctuary of absolute trust. It was, in essence, a boardroom meeting under the stars, with none of the boardroom's limitations.
And that, Dr. Sinclair, is the answer to your question. That is the missing ingredient. The point of those trips wasn't for Edison to tell Ford how to build a better carburetor, or for Ford to advise Firestone on factory management.
Then what was the point?
The point was the chemistry, as you so rightly put it. It was what I call perfect harmony. They were three different minds, but in those moments they operated in a spirit of absolute, coordinated harmony. They were there with a definite purpose, and that purpose was elevated beyond personal gain. It was a sincere, mutual desire to help one another break through their mental barriers.
Wait, oh my goodness. So the keyword isn't networking. It's not getting help. The keyword is harmony. It's a chemical alliance, not a business transaction.
Go on.
That's it. That's why approaching a successful stranger with a request feels so awkward and is so often fruitless, because that harmony, that trust, that sanctuary, it doesn't exist. We're trying to enact a chemical formula while missing the primary catalyst. We're trying to create fire without heat.
Precisely. You cannot force harmony. You cannot request it in an email. It must be built. It must be earned. And when that harmonious alliance is formed, that third force I spoke of, that third mind, is born. A cumulative energy, a psychic force, far, far greater than the sum of their individual intellects.
A cumulative energy.
And there is one more vital piece of the puzzle, Dr. Sinclair, a piece that is almost always overlooked. Each one of them was there to give. Ford was not there merely to draw from Edison's genius. He offered his own creative mind, his unique perspective on systems, to Edison's and Firestone's problems. It was a two-way street. To truly benefit from a mastermind, you must be willing to place your own complete mental and spiritual resources on the table for the benefit of others.
A two-way street. This changes everything. So my entire initial premise, that awkward feeling of bothering successful people, was flawed from the start. I was looking at it from the perspective of a consumer, a taker. What can I get from their time and their brilliance?
When the true question is,
What value can I bring? And how can I form a harmonious alliance with others who are also ready to contribute?
So the goal isn't to claw your way into some elite circle, it's to build your own.
Precisely. You do not beg for power from others, you generate it. Collectively. The mastermind is not a ladder you climb. It is a power plant, and you are one of its core reactors.
A power plant. And that reframes my question about the digital world too. My concern about whether a video call holds the same power.
Tell me, Dr. Sinclair, with this new understanding, what do you believe the answer is?
I believe the medium is secondary, isn't it? A Zoom call with two other people where there is perfect harmony and a definite purpose could be infinitely more powerful than a face-to-face lunch with someone where there's no real connection, where you're both just watching the clock.
Exactly. If the spirit of perfect harmony and a definite purpose is present on a video call, that third mind will be born, I assure you. Psychic energy is not bound by physical location. Without that harmony, you could lock Ford and Edison in the most opulent boardroom in the world, and nothing would emerge but an awkward silence. The tools change, Dr. Sinclair, but the principles of human nature, they remain constant. Harmony, trust, and a shared purpose. These are the currencies of every age, from the era of the telegraph to the era of the internet.
So the isolation of the solopreneur, it's a choice, not a destiny. And our digital tools, instead of separating us, they can be the very bridges we use to build these mental power plants even across the globe.
Provided you know what you are building. You are not looking for a long list of contacts. You are looking for a small, sacred alliance.
This is a complete paradigm shift. All right, so for the person watching right now, the entrepreneur, the artist, the student, who feels that spark of understanding and wants to begin, what is the first, no excuses, practical step they can take tomorrow morning?
The first step is to stop looking up at the summit and start looking around you at your peers. Instead of trying to email a titan of industry, find 2 or 3 other people who are just as hungry for success as you are.
So the main criteria are being at a similar level with a similar drive.
A similar drive and preferably complementary skills. If you excel at marketing, find someone who can build the product or another who understands the finances. You are not looking for copies of yourself. You are looking for your counterparts.
And after we find these people?
Form a small, committed group, and this is the most important part. Establish a specific, committed time and a clear agenda. For example, every Tuesday at 9 a.m. for 1 hour. That meeting is sacred. Nothing else takes its place. And the rule of the meeting is this. Each week, only one person presents their primary challenge, their biggest roadblock for that week. And the other members, they devote the entirety of their mental energy, their creativity, their focus to solving that one person's problem. The next week, it's the next person's turn. It is a mutual, reciprocal investment in each other's success.
So in the end, a mastermind group isn't a dinner party with smart people. It's more like a nuclear reactor. When you bring the right cores together, under the right conditions and in perfect harmony, the energy that's released can power a city. It's a fusion of minds, not just a conversation.